Alright, welcome YouTube to a daily cast. Let's hope now the game doesn't freeze. Here we go. We're on. last I tried, the game froze on me, but now it should be okay. Alright, we're fine. We are at the beginning of wave 1. It's just what I also spectating on this stream. So I'm glad to see more people spectating, making use of uh, that feature. We have XGod and Ausserkontrolle. Um, against Widderson and Robie. XGod going for his favorite start, the Maiden with the Gargoyle. That was a start that was initially started with Toyken, I do believe. He really likes it because he can go for 6 worker on wave 3 and still do well against a 60 cent. He will leak the 60 cent, but do pretty well. So that's the goal of this build. We have a Nightmare start on Asser. Widderson is going for the Priestess, one of his favorite, and Ruby going for the Crusher. 5 worker Crusher paired with an Aqua, very safe early game. The first weak wave to speak of would be wave 6, but he does have the option to go either Yozora or Violet, so very well-rounded composition for Ruby here. Widderson, does he have something very good for Priestess? He can go for an early Azeria. He can go for an early Bunk. He has a lot of options, as well as having wave 11 and 12 covered, meaning that he could potentially go for an egg in the mid game here. But here, this is where it starts to be interesting here on XGod. Um, and that is just he doesn't build anything else on wave 2, and that is quite surprising to some people that 135 do hold here. uh, it does pretty well even to a snail reset. And there's a 6th worker here from XGod, and that's how he likes to play it here. So Robie has the aggressive push here with 5 worker with his build as well, so he can put some pressure onto XGod. This is the correct send, the lizard. Try and snipe this maiden. He does have 3 gargoyle here. Nice front line for the maiden. As you can see, the gargoyle here will tank for the maiden, so the maiden potentially only tanks the lizard, and that's the goal here. And if it only tanks the lizard, then XGod should be able to hold all of it. Do we have a full send here from Ruby? He decides to keep the 20, only go for income here, knows the strength of the build. And now the trap here, does XGod go for the 7th worker? As you can see, the maiden only tanking the lizard. Widderson only risking a 40 here, does have the Sacred Steed, will be fine. The 2nd Aqua with Fire Archer, meaning that he will be quite strong on wave 4 as well, so does not fear. And here, Ausserkontrolle going for the Oathbreaker as well addition. Only risking a 20, looks like he will be fine here. And XGod not falling for the bait here, and staying 6 worker, realizing its weakness on wave 5. Not necessarily agreeing with that, and exactly the correction here. Preparing for wave 5 by doing something that is decent on this wave, and especially good on wave 5. The Green Devil. Hiding the Wanderer for now, but it will be added on wave 5 for sure. We have XGod going for income, knows that he is in a position that where he needs to have this extra gold to generate the frontline he needs on wave 5 against the potential send. And he will need to react afterwards if there's no send on 5 to go for something like a Zeus on wave 6. Here, very nice split by Widderson. The Steed just barely surviving, giving enough mana for this Priestess to survive. And we have Widderson at 7 workers and Ruby at 7 as well. Here, Ruby might be in a little bit of a trouble here, receiving a total of 80 cent, potentially. He will receive the 80 if Ausserkontrolle decide to go for the snail addition. Ruby going for income towards XGod. We do have the Wanderer. But the boss goes on this side here. And looking at the range, it looks like this Green Devil will be tanking for it also. So the goal here from XGod is to have the Maiden protected as long as possible. And it looks like it will be exactly that, so it requires this to do a lot of damage. Luckily for him, there's no Hermit, meaning that the damage is not negligible. Looking on the other side, no sands here, and Robie with the 80 sand, the snail did come in. You have the brute doing a lot of damage, and the fire elemental doing as well a great job, but it is not enough to clear, and it will be a small leak. Unlucky on not getting the snails and the scorpion here, but he will still be very happy with the result, relieving some of the pressure on his weakest wave, which is wave 6. Receiving here was pretty good for him. A resend could catch him, but he will have enough for the Windhawk, and he goes for income here. XGod still not sending here, feeling comfortable, because he received here on wave 5, managed to hold. And will he go for the maiden or not? He goes for a bazooka here, realizing he might be struggling in terms of damage this wave, and just protecting himself to a potential resend, however how small it is. Widderson will send a 120 here. Will he decide to add the 40 and the DT? Yes, he does. Perfect addition here to counter some of those pilgrims. There are two of them, so that is a very hard to break early game with the effective HP that it gives, but very bad units on this wave for Ausserkontrolle. So let's see how he does. Nightmare taking full focus, only 3 Rokos remaining, 2 Rokos remaining with the brutes, 1 brute getting focused now, and looks like Ausserkontrolle is doing pretty well here, but he will be leaking 1 brute with 2 Rokos. On the side of XGod, deciding to go for 2 bazookas, meaning that he will be able to hold the resend, will not hold the middle though, but holding a resend is very good for XGod, allowing him to push to 10 workers now, because now what he can do is do a red mask and fully focus on building for wave 9. So that is the biggest thing that can happen for him. He was also saving. He has the mimic to counter Widderson. Widderson has a growl here. He will go for the bunk though, and that is something that is common to see, baiting the people to think that you're going for Azeria, and in the end you go for something like a bunk. He does have enough for the Azeria, but the Azeria would be a mistake here from Widderson after a long save. He needs to realize that it is a potential mimic, one of the favorite Sen against the Azeria on 7, and go for the bunk. Uh, We'll see the decision here. He indeed goes for the bunk, reads that the most potent sin against him, against what he's shown, and what people expect would be the mimic. And so here the bunk will be tanking quite a long time on this side, but the damage is still very lackluster on the side of Widderson, and so he might still be leaking, but it will be way less than if he went for the Azeria. Still very good here. Maybe a little bit too much towards the bunk. A lower bunk here, just half a square below, would have done better. Would have been way more on the side of the priestess, but having more on the side of the priestess when you have some steeds, this is what you want. You just don't want the mimic to be on the side of the priestess, and with a bunk, normally the mimic would always go. No matter, still a very good uh, reaction from Widderson. Has a stronger composition now to hold wave 10 because he can go for Haven now instead of Azeria, and only go for the Azeria on 11 if he so decides so. But going for the Haven on 10 is his only option currently. There's a lot of assault, so potentially no egg on 11, but with the Azaria on 11, he could protect himself very well against a lot of assault on 11, and potentially do the egg after receiving the sun on 11. But 12 is a potential issue, but Robie is very strong on wave 12, so there might be some egg plays, no matter if there is an all assault or not. So we do have the chieftains here coming up from Ausserkontrolle. Does receive the 140, will be able to push. He will be out pushing everybody else normally with 980 value. He is close to the value necessary for wave 9, but he needs to keep in mind that he needs that double on wave 10. If he doesn't get it, he has no damage for that wave and he will be struggling. So he goes for 10 workers. will decide to not fully push here and shift for that also important doppel. Does he need to shift that much looking at his income and the gold generated? And the answer is no. And that's exactly what he does. He is building a bit more 144, 88, 122, 190. He could build a little bit more, but not that much more. It's 210, sorry. And in total, that means that he will be sitting at 210 plus that 354. So that's exactly enough. He could have built a little bit more if he expected himself to send on 10. But looks like the call would be to skip wave 10. Looks like the call is not to skip wave 10 here and go for wave 10 on the side of Ausserkontrolle. And will it be the same thing for XGod though? He did go for income here on wave 9, trying to bait a... Well, he was getting saved on, so that's potentially him trying to get something out. Clears everything except the ogre. That is a very, very impressive. Building the violet here was very important for him. But that's exactly what we discussed here. The Tantrum on wave 8 managed himself to only focus on wave 9. And that's the result of it. Only leaking the ogre. Very good for XGod. The sands on wave 10 are coming here. XGod going for the resend double brute. Could potentially do very well. Widderson a little bit short on the Haven. Selling one of the steeds could be the play here. If he doesn't go for the Haven, he will surely leak. He goes for the Azeria, so he's playing towards wanting the egg. So he is accepting the leak on wave 10, expecting Robie to be very strong on that wave. You will see a no push from Widderson into an egg generation. So we do have the 160, it's only income towards XGod. Looks like he didn't want to try and leak him. Like, he doesn't need much to leak him. I mean, he's probably leaking to no sense here. There's barely any damage on XGod, so that's potentially enough to leak him. We do have here the income as well towards the doppel. The doppel's dying here, but it's still enough damage in the backline to kill it. And looks like we spoken too fast here, and looks like XGod will be able to clear. Robie not clearing is problematic for the strategy of Widderson here. They will take some king damage. XGod leaking. Small though. It was close to a hole. And I mean, this small detail will make so that XGod and Ausserkontrolle could potentially go for not auto assault into 12. Widderson going for income. We did see him push just a little bit. It does not have enough for the egg though, so it looks like the egg plan is going away here. Maybe he miscalculated, pushed one too much, because that would have been the perfect time for him to go for the egg. Looks like he's still going for it, going to sell all the Bone Warriors to get it. So there's the egg. So that's baiting the wave 12 Sen. So he's going for Pulverizer. We have the Giant Snails. Giant Snails are very good against the Aquas, the Leviathans as well. Gives more targets. So that is problematic towards Robie. So let's see what he decides to do. He's still pretty low on value, but the value is pretty good on wave 12. Ausserkontrolle received the income sense here. Income king ups. So he needs to be pushing here. And XGod is the one at 17 workers. That is something Widderson does not know, and the 12 Sen will come in. The Haven is not reachable for Widderson. He's just a little bit, he's 100 gold short, so that's even with income impossible to get. We do have an income coming from Robie, going to build more of those Leviathans. Tempest. Leviathan coming in, we have another Tempest potentially. He has 300 gold to spend, so that's a lot. He's going for the Fire Lord, so maybe overconfident that he will hold. Well, we talk about overconfidence, but XGod and Ausserkontrolle are not going to break the egg here. They are not going for it. So it looks like this will be pretty good here for Widderson, having this egg, managing to sneak it out. But now it is a long save. towards an egg player. And you do see the Ezreal with Pulverizer, so you might think wave 14 is the goal, but wave 14 is one of the strongest wave of Roby. So will be interesting to see what they decide to do. This will be a hold from XGod. They only go for income here. No income from Widderson. But now there's 20 workers on XGod, so that's a lot of pressure on towards Widderson, despite having this Hydra. So here what you will do is the Star Hoarder potentially, and then on wave 14 you will go for more of those Pegasi. So we do have here the 13 preparation. He knows that he's quite weak on 13 with the Aquas and the Leviathans. So it's a very nice assumption from him to expect that. Widderson going for only King up. Roby will potentially reach. So some King ups, yes. And so XGod and Ausserkontrolle are still saving. But now, when is it too much to save, right? Now, they've been saving for a long time, and now Widderson and Roby have been sitting on a lot of income. And so this income is allowing them to slowly but surely go ahead in value. But now releasing the pressure on wave 14. That could be potentially very dangerous for Widderson and Roby. But as we said, Roby is not looking the weakest. He's lacking some tanks, but he has the damage to do pretty well here. So we'll potentially see some full spell. Full spell could potentially come in here from Widderson and Roby. And that would be very good here. We have the Millennium coming up from Widderson. He cannot go for the Doomsday. He can sell this Growl to get what? 260? He's going for a steed and a Pegasus and a steed. Okay, so he wants some frontline, have some more burst damage. We have the spells coming in, finished attack. That will be close to full king. We do have a lot of AoE here on this side. What is the spell? The spell is a Lightning Hammer. So that is very good when you have AoE and there's Lightning Hammer or Immolation. Those spells are quite good in terms of speed. The fastest non-immolation spell is Judgment. Lightning Hammer is not too bad because I think there's 3 hits of lightning in total. But look at this, this Azaria is doing a lot of work, tanking a lot of the wave, and still surviving. Now the 4A is on her, and so this might be problematic, but it's on the 4A, so if it kills a 4A, that reduces the amount of damage by quite a lot, but no stuns coming in, meaning that the 4A wins over the Azaria, but 4A is quite low, so the king will be targeting it, and they will survive to that, and now what we have is, yes, there's a worker lead on XGod and Ausserkontrolle, but does this league compensate for the amount of gold they generated during all those time? Also, in terms of composition, if we look, we do have Ausserkontrolle quite weak on 17. And so will wave 17 come in for Widderson and Roby here? Well, we do have the boars coming in, but damage is almost non-existent on Ausserkontrolle on 17. And towards XGod, he does have the front line, but the masks are not tantrumed on wave 17. That's the best thing that is working towards Ruby and Widderson. We do see though that he have a lot of frontline but barely any damage. So that's crucial in the late game. Not having any damage is dangerous. The damage here is very good on Widderson, going for another egg here, trying to bait a 16 cent it looks like. And a 16 cent would make Ruby quite happy here. You will have double Phoenix. And so now the call is, okay, can we leak Widderson on 17 despite him having 2 full eggs? And that's where the decision comes in. Do they go and try to break him? Go for the late game, have faith that Ausserkontrolle and XGod have the stronger role. But looking at the value here, look at the value from Ausserkontrolle at 2.8k, that is quite low. And maybe he shifted or something, but it looks like no. Looks like he didn't shift. He's just very far under uh, in the game here, and So he is highly pushed. They don't go 16, so this means it's another full egg on Widderson. He is not pushing workers here. They will go 17s to match them and protect themselves. And here we have a full 16 preparation on the side of Ruby. Will it be the same on the side of Widderson? He does go for steeds, so he's preparing more towards this star color composition and having faith towards this egg. Their value is quite good, but the value of XGod is also quite good. He is ahead in income compared to everybody else. He is preparing 2 10-turn masks, but apart from those masks, he doesn't have any DPS, so having a pack Mole Hermit could be very good against him. So we'll see what are the decisions. But right now, the best decisions could be to go for income king ups on Widderson and Ruby, and full sending from XGod and Ausserkontrolle. And looks like the call is not to income king ups, but to go with a full send here towards Ausserkontrolle and XGod. XGod going for pack leader here. And what is he aiming? He's going full auras. Full auras with Snell against the Star Cutter. That's could be quite weird. Without Ausserkontrolle here, that's the value we're talking about. That is the value that is going to be problematic, despite having this massive tank and a Green Devil, and those boars. The damage is just not present enough. So we'll see how this one will go. Hermit, I do not really agree with Widderson on this one, because all the damage is single target damage. It does counter a little bit the burst charge, giving health back to some of those creeps. And so in the end, might still be okay. But is there a better send here with this 80? Potentially not. Maybe more towards something like a double DT to have more arcane defense, but then do they survive the board charge? So I understand the reasoning. Is there anything better for 80 that you could send? The answer is probably no. So in the end, the Hermit makes more sense than it seems. But here we have the 8 Giants now to counter the Celestial Starcutter. The Hermit not really achieving much, except from countering a little bit of the Banana Monk. If we see here, he did go for the Doomsday and not for the Haven, having faith towards those Hydras, giving a lot of time. As we are dying, I think it's not the end of the world for Widderson. Could have been potentially better if it survives. But it will be a leak on him, it will be a leak on Robie, it will be a leak on Ausserkontrolle, but will it be a leak on XGod? It will be, but a very slow one, and so the game will go towards XGod and Ausserkontrolle here. The slow wave 16 caused by the low value of Ausserkontrolle allowed XGod and Ausserkontrolle to get bigger sense here and put some pressure on Widderson and Robie. The egg plays were adequate from Widderson. But wait, did he push to no sand on 16? I didn't see quite correctly. I don't think so. I think he stayed on value. He did go for the Doomsday, hoping it was enough. But the biggest problem is that the Azania took too much here, and that's always dangerous. You just want the Azania to survive, of course. But there was just too much here, despite having this split adjustment in the Bone Warrior here. Just not enough due to the snail spam, meaning that there's a lot of units going onto the Azaria, meaning that the Azaria cannot go for a typical survival because this extra delay towards the wave means there's the extra pressure, extra damage, and then you're not holding in that situation. The value were good, but the push was better on XGod and Ausserkontrolle here to be leaking Robie and Widderson. Robie, not a surprise he leaks. He prepared full for 16 to try and counter any potential reaction to the egg, which normally is the correct call to go and break the egg. But they've seen a possibility to leak both Widderson and Robie on wave 17 with the heavy magic damage on both of them. And so he said, despite having had to face Hydras, we're still confident we'll be having enough to leak them. And that was the correct call. Maybe the RAM was a bit problematic from Robie. As we said, auras could have been better because the only threat here are the masks. The rest are only tanks, so you just need to get through the tanks. And what does the ram do? It's only getting eaten up by those samurai souls. So putting up more damage, more impact damage could have been a little bit better for Robie rather than going for the ram. Would it have made a difference? Potentially make XGod leak faster, but still also control held longer than Widderson, which was the biggest thing here. So on that, I hope you liked it and see you next time.